and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. I am your host, Nina Joshi. Carla, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Nina. I'm really happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, maybe to kind of kick things off, would love if you could tell, our audience a little bit more about your background and, really your journey that led you and inspired you to co-found Babbly.
My background is in both software engineering and machine learning. I used to focus more on natural language processing. Now I'm working more in the pre-language stage, but I think the experiences apply. So I had my bachelor's in computer science and then did a master's in AI. That was before the deep learning boom. But I've been working in different companies, both startup and very big companies, doing mostly natural language understanding, NLU, but also software engineering. So I was in a startup called Maluba that we were building virtual assistant, speech understanding. Got later acquired by Microsoft. And then I joined Amazon Alexa, which is where I experienced how is it to work at giant scale in terms of engineering. And then after freelancing for a while, I met my co-founder, Mariam, and she told me about the idea of founding Babbly, and here I am.
That's incredible. I'll definitely make sure, I have so many questions about Babbly, but I definitely also want to ask you, as someone that's been in the AI space for so long, I'm so curious to get your thoughts on, everything that we're hearing right now about the AI boom. So definitely we have to pick your brain on that. But for Babbly, would love if you could tell us a little bit more about this platform. How does it work? And, what impact are you hoping to make with this tool?
Yeah, maybe I can start with why we started this. So my co-founder had a 2-year-old that was nonverbal, and she was trying to get help. She was being told by pediatricians to just wait and see, where she knew that maybe something could be done. She wanted to get resources. It's not easy to find. Later on, he was diagnosed and got specific therapy. And then within 6 months, he was speaking, right? So that was the realization of how important intervention on time is. So earlier intervention, we know how important it is, but also that it could probably be done in a more efficient way for the parents and the system, because she was noticing those things way before she could get the help, right? And with my background in AI, she was wondering if, is this something we can track with AI, right? So there is a lot of research about how language gets developed, but there was no AI to track those milestones or anything like that. So yeah, again, my experience was more in the language state, like adult speaking, but I decided that this was a really good and interesting challenge. So then we built a platform to track those early milestones, which are the different babbling stages that every child goes through before developing language. Similar to when kids are starting to walk, they start, first they sit down, then they crawl, then there's all these different stages that we are well aware of. But in terms of language, it's not, if you're not an expert, you don't really know them. So we're tracking those milestones and providing parents with first information, which where the kid is at, is this within the norm, is this a bit delayed, is a bit ahead, and also quick intervention. We provide activities. They're play-based. They're developed by speech-language pathologists. They're play-based activities that you can do with the baby. Some of them are like bath time or playtime or during the meal to encourage the next milestone the kid should be working on. Those are always good, whether the baby's on track or a bit delayed, because those are just good practices, playful, fun, and developed by specialists. So yeah, that's what our platform does.
That's amazing. And I love how you went from Amazon Alexa to Babbly now. I think it's a fun kind of evolution of voice. And for you, for Babbly, I mean, it's amazing that you and your kind of co-founder really used your, personal experience to build something that, many are dealing with. What is kind of the mission or the impact that you're hoping that Babbly will make?
Well, we hope that we can get early intervention for those who need it as soon as possible. We can also empower those parents who are seeking the data for whatever reason, maybe because they're data driven, maybe because they're worried because of some family history. For whatever reason, it's always empowering to have the data. And then eventually, as we continue developing, we want to move into getting into diagnosis, right? If this could be a tool that helps the decision makers, it helps the pediatricians or the speech language pathologists, just adds a lot more data to their toolkit to make an earlier diagnosis. The sooner, the better, right?
Absolutely. And I love if you could share a little bit more, because I'm not as familiar kind of with, these early stages of speech development, but I can imagine that they're, so important. Can you elaborate a little bit more on kind of how these missing, babbling milestones, within the first year or a few months can have those long-term effects on things like vocabulary, language development, etc.?
Yeah, so this is something that has been very well researched. We know, for example, that the lack or delay of canonical babbling, which is the when the babies start like repeating the same syllable like mama, mama, it's related to a higher likelihood of developmental disorders, for example, autism or apraxia, right? So this is where, like I'm saying, this is a powerful tool because it's an extra data point into making a diagnosis early on, and also targeting what type of intervention should that kid if they need it, right? But yeah, there's many other stages. So usually babies start with cooing, which is the vowel stage, then single syllables, just like one ma or one da type of thing. Then they duplicate it. Then they go into variegated babbling, which is when it sounds like language, but it's not like, it doesn't mean anything yet. And if each one of those is important, they need to go in progression towards language, right? So we know that some of them are very well researched into like what it means in the later ages. There's also studies that show like it's even linked to academic success, right? Like how fast those milestones happen or how slow. If there is a delay, it's been related with later academic success in even up to high school, right? So it's very important to stay on top of those. And 1 every 5 children is at risk of speech and language delay. So it's really impactful.
I didn't realize that it was that ratio. That's really interesting. And for you, I know you were mentioning kind of the different stages, starting with the cooing. For Babbly, how soon can a parent use this platform? Is it pretty immediate that they're able to kind of track some of these milestones?
Yeah, ideally, 3 months of age. It could be earlier, but usually earlier is mostly cries. So it's not as easy.
Don't want to track
usually we usually start at 3 months of age until it depends, like 2 years or even further, depends on how fast the kids are developing.
Wow, that's incredible. And you had mentioned too that, an absence or just reduction in babbling and how that's linked to, developmental issues or conditions. Would love if you could share a little bit more, how does Babbly help assist or track or monitor those changes?
Yeah, so our ideal scenario right now would be if you have the app and have been consistently uploading audios, because it was with just the audio of the baby, then you'll have a breakdown of what are the babbling stages that the kid is at and whether they are within the norm or out of the norm. And then that could be really, it's a very powerful information for your pediatrician on the regular visit to go and see, like, I think there is a risk and this is the data. And then if the pediatrician refers you to a speech language pathology for a full language assessment, that's also very useful information. The speech language pathologists love to have that information, because they're usually, when they arrive to making an assessment, they're in the blind, they don't have any data, they have like 1 hour to interact with the baby. So it will be so powerful to understand where like those milestones started or when they stopped, or how are they developing. So it's just adding more information to their toolkits.
Absolutely. Yeah, the power of historical context, I think, is always really, really great to have. And I also know that you, had a study that you conducted with the Health Innovation and Technology Lab at Columbia. Could you share a little bit more about this collaboration? I know that you had used, this collaboration to help validate some of, the algorithms that you are using.
Yeah. So this was to validate our AI algorithms to detect Babbly milestones. So they recruited 30 families who recorded each between 1 and 4 minutes of audio, those kids, and they ran those audios through our algorithm. They also recruited 5 to 6, I think it was around 5 speech language pathologists to listen to those audios and determine which are the milestones that they, as professionals, hear in those audios. And then they compare that, and we were able to detect milestones with 91% accuracy, which we're really happy to know, because then that's how we know that it could be a powerful tool.
Absolutely. And I'm so curious, from the study that you had conducted with all of these families, were there any interesting insights, any variation based off of things like, age or sex, or anything that you thought was interesting from that study?
Yeah, well, the most interesting thing was that there is no variations across sex or age, which was really good to hear, because sometimes we have AI always comes with biases, right? So we wanted to test for the different cases separately, and the population was like 50% girls, 50% boys, which we know, like, developmental disorders are not usually diagnosed at the same age for boys or girls, or are not as prevalent. So it was good to know that, like, in terms of like what are the existing milestones, we're equally able to detect those. So I think that was like a really good news for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so fascinating. And also very curious, because, your AI is a huge component of your platform. And I think now, I would say more and more healthcare providers and physicians, because AI has become so prevalent, I think they're, more open, and the adoption has increased for them to utilize it. So for you, how do you kind of envision some of these practical applications of AI with Babbly kind of used in a healthcare setting?
Yeah, I think there is one like easy one that it would be to include Babbly, whether it's on the phone or on a baby monitor, but just at home for take a few samples where the baby is like doing their normal like play activities or eating or wherever, and then Babbly would send a report to the pediatrician, for example, like all directed, like all summarized. We already have a demo for that, where the pediatrician would see like where the different milestones started, whether that's within the norm or not. Same as like they have many charts for like, the head size and the height and the weight and like all these others, like there's charts to know what's the percentile and other things. They could have the same for the language milestones. And because within one visit, they have to check for all the developmental aspects, which is a lot, language is one of them, it would be so valuable to already have a breakdown. And it's like this seems on track or doesn't seem on track. How does that relate to the other milestones that the pediatrician is checking? So that's one that we think it would be like very frictionless and add a lot of information.
I love, and of course, optimizing those visits is always, I think, a good endeavor.
Yeah,
And
we've spoken with a few pediatricians and SLPs, speech language pathologists, and they love this idea. It's just like, give me more data, give me like a clear breakdown so I can make a better decision in less time. That's definitely a win-win.
Perhaps 100%. And I wanted to ask, I know that you had mentioned, your future plans to kind of include like diagnostics and kind of, having that wraparound service. Would love if you could share a little bit more of what that may look like.
Yeah, that's something that it's going to take a lot more research and studies, but we know that the science is there, like how like the likelihood of developmental disorders is related to the babbling stages and how often they appear and all that. So we want to tap into that and do studies where to see whether we can extract more information from these babbling stages to understand where the, not just maybe the lack of a milestone or the delay of a milestone, which is very important, but in addition, if there is other like acoustic cues or information that can be extracted, and with more data, we know that it has been in the past related with a specific disorder, and then again, it's an extra data point that could be really valuable to just start detecting those things earlier, because there's no need to wait.
Absolutely. Wow, that is so incredible. I'm very excited to see kind of what that progress looks like, because I think just being able to further build on this very, needed platform, it sounds incredible. And now, Carla, I kind of want to just pick your brain a little bit too, because not only have you developed this amazing platform, but you are also a founder. You founded a company. And for anyone who is, listening in right now that is also kind of, a founder or is looking to be a founder, would love to just kind of hear your insights on that. And I think the first question I have for you is, for you with Babbly, how has it evolved since you and your co-founder kind of dreamed up this platform, or has it?
Yeah, it's been a long ride for sure. Yeah, well, at the beginning, it's always like an idea, like you can do it, and you believe it's gonna help a lot of people, and it's a good thing. So at the beginning, it's a lot about this like ideation into how can we make it into something concrete, and then how can we help others believe in our idea, right? Because we in the specific, for a specific use case, we need a lot of data, right? And this data that is not like readily available in public data sets or anything like that, right? Like babbling, infants babbling, and like the specific milestones detected by speech language pathologists is not something easy to get. So the first stage was to get a concrete idea of what we wanted to do and get people to believe in it. We went to a few accelerators that helped a lot. That gets a bit of cash, but also a lot of mentoring and some other resources, cloud resources and things like that, which is also very important for AI. You need a lot of servers to train and things like that. And then, yeah, we raised our C round with a few VCs from Canada and the US. We're able to hire a bigger team, and now we have an amazing team that is a mix of speech language pathologists. Well, we've always had speech language pathologists as advisors, some pediatricians, but now we have like some contractors that help us with like all this data, giving us all the insights of where's the things that they look for and whatnot. We also have obviously like software developers, data analysts, machine learning, AI engineers. So yeah, it's a long ride, and I think it depends a lot on the specific use cases. Absolutely. And the market. But I think it's important to find something that can really have an impact, and that's what we really believe, that this could have an impact.
100%. And I also wanted to ask you, because you are a co-founder, you also have a partner. For anyone that is, looking to partner with someone to kind of start a business, for you, what is like the secret sauce? How do you both kind of come together, as a partnership to, create and execute on this vision? Are there any, tips and tricks when it comes to the right partner?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if there's tips and tricks to the right partner. I know that for us, I think it works because we have very different backgrounds and very complementary skill sets. So I think it increases our common knowledge and ideas and perspectives and expertise. So she works on the business side and the product and reaching out to the parents and all those things. And I'm on the technology, the data, just getting information from the SLPs. So for us, it was a really good synergy that just being the two of us, because there was not a lot of overlap, which at the beginning sounded like a challenge. It ended up being our superpower that it works. It works for us. We're also constantly checking whether we are on the same page, or what's our vision, what's our mission, how do we get there. I think those are it's easy on the startup hustle to get lost in the weeds, and it's important to always take a step back and consider what's your mission and vision, and how do you want to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so right now, you've raised your seed. So for you, were there any kind of challenges or barriers that you had to encounter that kind of comes top of mind when you were first starting off? So kind of that pre-seed, getting everything together, anything that you can share with us, any lessons learned from kind of that early stage of the company?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest skill one can have in that stage is to adapt quickly and to change quickly. For us in particular, COVID hit while we were figuring things out. So suddenly we didn't have an office and had to work from home and had to figure things out. But that also applies to anything, even if COVID hadn't come. And we didn't have to change the way we work. We changed many times, what we think is the right approach, and then we test it. I think it's important to test quickly and fail quickly and move to the next. And I think adaptability to change is really the biggest superpower for startups.
I would 100, especially during COVID, I can't imagine that's definitely a testament to flexibility. We do have a question from the audience that I want to make sure that we get to. Our participant is asking, curious to know how you found working in the healthcare world with all of the challenges, bureaucracy, etc., especially given your tech background.
Yeah, that was definitely a challenge. It's a really good question. And that's why also we are still not doing diagnosis, or not doing we're not yet in hospitals or things like that, because we know it's a very long road and we need to prove the technology before getting into the healthcare system, right? So that's why we decided to start with an app that was just giving information to parents that we think is very useful and powerful. And it helped us understand what are the parents' needs, what do they want, how do they use it, and also in the meantime gather our data from our SLPs, get the validation study done. For example, we need to go through clinical studies. So we took maybe this slower approach instead of try to go full on into the healthcare system. We first try to get the technology done and in place, because we know otherwise it's going to take very long time, and we need to prove that it's valuable. Otherwise, obviously you cannot get into it. But yeah, definitely a challenge for me.
Well, I love that you were so like methodical and you kind of knew that the first thing, if anything, was just to make sure, to your point, that this was something that parents, wanted, they valued, they saw what it could do, and it definitely has. So I think that slow and steady approach was a good one.
Mhm.
I love that. And for, anyone who is listening who is an aspiring entrepreneur, do you have any just general, words of wisdom, any advice that you could share just based off of your own journey thus far?
I think, yeah, the adaptability is gonna be your superpower. And like myself, like I'm engineer and AI, but I wore so many other hats. I saw myself in parent interviews, like speaking with SLPs, like navigating the healthcare system and compliance system, like all those things. You have to be ready to wear many hats. You have to adapt and change quickly. I think it's important to get your mission in mind all the time, but don't get stuck into this is how we do it. This is how we do it needs to keep changing, because you don't know how we do it until you do it. So I think that would be and this is like a marathon, not a sprint. So also be ready for a marathon.
I love that. I mean, I think that's just general life advice. So I think
Yeah.
that's incredible. Thank you so much, Carla, for taking the time to chat and also bearing with me. I know my voice is very raspy. The cold and flu season is off with a bang for me. So I
I
really
know. I hope you get better.
thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know that all of us are so impressed with the work that you've done with Babbly, and we are so excited to kind of see how it just continues to evolve. We'll definitely have to have you back, to especially see how things are going as you embark on the diagnostic side of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk to you.